What if I told you that there was once a man who gave his entire life to Allah? 200 years of worship, 200 years of prayer, 200 years of tears in the night when nobody was watching. People walked for days just to reach his door, just to ask for his dua. He was, without question, the closest human being to Allah on the face of this earth. And then he died, denying Allah and prostrating to Shaytan. This is the story of Barsisa, the man who betrayed Allah. Before we get to the fall, you need to understand who Barsisa was, because this was not a weak man. This was not a careless man. This was not someone who took his faith lightly. Barsisa had dedicated his entire life to the worship of Allah. He retreated from the world, its distractions, its temptations, its noise, and inside the walls of his small monastery, he worshipped. Morning and night, year after year, decade after decade. Some narrations say for over 200 years. Whether you take that literally or as a reflection of the sheer depth of his devotion, the point is the same. This man gave everything to Allah, everything. And word spread the way it always does when someone is truly extraordinary. People came from everywhere. They came with their sick. They came with their grief. They came with their broken hearts and their unanswered questions. And they left changed, because there was something about being in the presence of a man so completely devoted to Allah that it reminded people of what actually mattered. He had become, without ever seeking it, the most respected man alive. But here is what made Barsisa truly different. When the last visitor had gone and the monastery fell silent, he was still there, still praying, still weeping, not for people, not for reputation, but because he genuinely loved Allah. And for decades, nothing had come close to shaking that. No temptation, no distraction, no force in the world had managed to break what he had spent a lifetime building. But there is something about greatness that attracts a very specific kind of attention. The higher a person climbs, the more determined certain forces become to bring them down. Shaytan had noticed Barsisa, and he had chosen him, not because he was weak, but precisely because he wasn't. His fall would be the loudest warning ever sent to every believer who came after him. The plan was already in motion, and Shaytan was prepared to be very, very patient. There were 3 brothers in the city, good men, faithful men, and they were about to leave for battle, which left them with one problem. Their sister would be alone, in a time where a woman alone was a woman unprotected. They needed someone trustworthy, someone whose character was beyond question. And there was only one name that made sense: Barsisa. They made the journey up to his monastery and explained their situation. And Barsisa, to his credit, said no. He refused.
I cannot take this responsibility. This is not something I should do. You must find someone else.
Some part of him understood that this was not something he should take on, that the right thing was to stay within his walls and let someone else carry this. He said no, and he meant it. And then the whisper came, quiet, reasonable. It said, "These are good men going to fight for a noble cause. Their sister will be completely alone. Who will protect her, if not you? Is this not your duty?" The whisper did not sound like temptation. It sounded like the right thing to do, and that is exactly what made it so dangerous. Barsisa changed his answer. He told the brothers he would look after their sister. They left with relief in their hearts. They had chosen the most trustworthy man they knew. They had no reason to worry. What none of them understood, not the brothers, not the sister, not even Barsisa himself, was that the trap had already been set. At first, Barsisa was careful. He kept his distance the way a man of his devotion should. He would leave food outside her door and walk away without a word, never knocked, never spoke. He told himself this was the right way, the safe way. But Shaytan returned. This time the whisper said, "You have not even checked if she is all right. What if she is sick? What if she needs something? What kind of guardian leaves food at a door and disappears? Is this the character of the man people travel across the world to see? Just check on her. Once. It is your duty. And Barsisa knocked just once, just to check. A completely reasonable thing to do. But that single knock on that door was the most dangerous moment in this entire story. Not the sins that came later, this moment. Because Shaytan never asks you to jump. He only ever asks you to take one small step, and then another, and then another, until you look back and can no longer see where you started. The visits became a habit. He would come to her door, ask if she needed anything. She would answer. He would leave. It was innocent. Until Shaytan whispered again, "Why are you speaking through a door like a stranger? You are her guardian. Go inside. Speak to her properly." And so, he went inside. And they spoke. And it was still innocent. But something had shifted. The careful distance Barsisa had maintained was gone. The conversations grew longer. The visits grew more frequent. And somewhere in the middle of it all, without him fully realizing it, he became attached to her presence, to her company, something he had not allowed himself to feel in decades of isolation. He told himself he was in control, but the truth was already visible in the way he walked back to his monastery slower than before, in the way his prayers felt different, in the way his mind drifted when it never used to drift. Shaytan had not pushed him into sin. He had simply walked him, one comfortable step at a time, to the very edge of it. Nobody falls all at once. What happens is gradual. A person takes one step, then another, and each step feels small enough to justify, until one day they are somewhere they never imagined they could be. That day came for Barsisa. The scholars are deliberately vague about the details out of wisdom and respect. But what every narration agrees on is that Barsisa committed a grave sin against this woman who had been placed in his care, the woman whose brothers had trusted him with their lives, the woman who had done nothing wrong. The man who was supposed to protect her betrayed that trust completely. The guilt was immediate.
What have I done? Ya Allah, what have I done? I have destroyed everything. Everything I built, everything I was.
It sat on his chest like a collapsing wall. He had spent his entire life understanding sin, understanding its weight, and now he was sitting with one so enormous he could barely breathe. And right here, in this moment, if he had turned back to Allah, if he had wept and begged for forgiveness, this story would have ended differently. The door of Tawbah was still open. It is always open. But Shaytan was not finished. The whisper that came next was different from all the ones before. It did not tempt. It did not dress itself as wisdom or duty. It came as something far more powerful, fear. It said, think about what happens when her brothers return. Think about what they will do when they find out. Everything you have built, everything you have spent a lifetime becoming, all of it gone, unless you do something about it now, before they come back. And this is where the true depth of Shaytan's plan reveals itself. He had not spent all this time walking Barsisa toward one sin. He had spent all this time walking him toward this moment, this impossible corner, where the fear of being exposed felt more unbearable than the weight of what he had already done. Barsisa made a decision. Again, the scholars are vague, but what is understood is that he took a life to bury what had happened. He committed something even darker to cover the first sin, and when the silence settled, he felt nothing. Because that is what happens when a person crosses enough lines. The conscience that once kept him weeping through the night had gone completely quiet, and Shaytan, watching all of this, knew the real plan could now begin. The brothers came home. They had thought about their sister throughout the entire journey, reassured each other that she was with Barsisa, the most trustworthy man alive. There was nothing to worry about. They were almost back. But when they arrived, something felt wrong before they could name it. They asked about their sister. The answers they got were not the answers they expected. People shifted, eyes dropped, and as the truth began to surface, piece by piece, the relief on their faces disappeared into something that had no name. Barsisa could not hide anymore. Everything he had buried came up. The community that had revered him for decades now stood before him with entirely different eyes. The man they had walked hours to visit, the the man whose prayers they had sought for their sick and their grieving. That man was gone, and what stood in his place, none of them had ever imagined they would see. And now we reach the part of this story that should stop every single one of us cold. Because through everything, through every sin and every buried secret and every crossed line, the door of Tawbah had remained open. Allah's mercy does not close based on the size of the sin. It never has. Even now, even here, Barsisa could have turned back. There was still time. There was still a chance. But Shaytan made his final move. He appeared to Barsisa one last time, not as a terrifying force, but almost as the only familiar presence left in the world. And he made an offer. He said, "I can still help you. There is a way out of this, but you need to do one thing, just one thing. Disbelieve, turn away from Allah, and I will handle everything else." And Barsisa, broken and hollow and drowning in everything he had done, said yes. The man of 200 years of worship. In one moment of complete desperation, he turned away from Allah. And the instant he did, Shaytan stepped back and said the most chilling words ever spoken in this story. He said,
I am free of you. I fear Allah, the Lord of all the worlds.
and he was gone. The voice that had whispered for years, the presence that had walked him through every step, gone. Without hesitation, without guilt, without looking back. Because that is the reality of Shaytan. He walks with you for one reason only, to bring you somewhere from which you cannot return. And the moment he has done that, he leaves, while quoting the words of Allah. Barsisa was gone, not just physically, but in every way that mattered, and Shaytan had not destroyed him in a day. He had destroyed him across years, across dozens of small moments that each felt manageable, each felt justifiable, each felt like something a man of his caliber could handle. This story was not preserved for us to look at Barsisa and feel distant from him. That would be the most dangerous response. It was preserved so that we would look at every small step, every reasonable-sounding whisper, and recognize something uncomfortable, that none of us are immune, that worship and knowledge and devotion, as important as they are not enough on their own. What keeps a person safe is not their history with Allah. It is their constant awareness that without His protection, on any ordinary day, a door could open that should never be walked through. Ask Allah every day to protect your heart, to keep you firm, to not let something that looks almost right lead you somewhere completely wrong. Because Shaytan is not coming with something that looks like evil, he is coming with something that looks almost noble, almost reasonable, almost like the right thing to do, and the only protection against that was always only Allah.